你们有一个好，全世界跑到什么地方，你们比其他的西方记者跑得还快。但是呢，问来问去的问题啊，都 too simple， 啊 ，sometimes naive， 懂了没有？中国有一句话叫闷声大发财，我就什么话叫闷声大发财？这是最好的。
This is one of the famous anecdotes about former CCP leader Jiang Zemin, whose slogan, "Make a big fortune quietly," quickly spread throughout China. A Hong Kong reporter asked the leader if the then chief executive of Hong Kong was predetermined by the CCP leadership. Jiang immediately became angry and threatened. If your reports are inaccurate in the future, you will be held responsible.
你们毕竟还图洋，明白这意思吧？我告诉你们，我是身经百战了，见得多了。 西方的哪个国家我没去过？媒体他们，你们也知道，美国的华莱士那比你们不知道高到哪里去了。我给他谈笑风生。但是我想，我见到你们这样热情啊，我一句话不说也不好。所以刚才你一定要在宣传上，将来如果你们报道上有偏差，你们要负责。
Jiang Zemin has many famous scenes, such as his fondness for combing his hair. In 1996, during his visit to Spain while inspecting the royal guard with King Juan Carlos, Jiang suddenly took out a comb and began combing his hair in front of the king. In 2002, when US President Bush visited Beijing, Jiang was supposed to introduce his wife to Mrs. Bush. He may have suddenly felt his wife wasn't presentable enough, and he did this. Also, during the 16th and 17th National Congresses of the Communist Party of China, Jiang Zemin appeared listless and yawned incessantly. However, when the pretty waitresses show up, he immediately became lively, staring intently at them, unable to look away, even with global media cameras focused on him. This is the very party leader who is currently being solemnly commemorated throughout China. If you understand the implications, you can say you understand the future direction of the CCP better than many others in the world. In this episode, we'll analyze why the current party leader Xi Jinping is solemnly commemorating a former party leader with a terrible reputation. On August 17th of this year, the CCP held a rare commemorative event to mark the 100th anniversary of Jiang Zemin's birth, during which Xi Jinping delivered a speech. The speech was filled with extreme praise for the former party leader, and it's likely that even the party officials who appeared to be listening attentively were inwardly scoffing. At the same time, China's state television broadcast a 12-episode documentary commemorating Jiang. Other events also took place. Since the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, with the exception of leaders like the first party leader Mao Zedong, the centenary celebrations for other leaders generally consist of only symposiums. Jiang Zemin gained the favor of Deng Xiaoping, a senior CCP leader, for his active role in the crackdown on students in Shanghai in 1989, and thus ascended to the position of party leader in June 1986. In 2003, following the then common practice, he relinquished the position of General Secretary after 2 terms. However, he firmly grasped military power and cultivated and won over officials at all levels through a making big fortune quietly approach, effectively sidelining future party leaders Hu Jintao and his partner Wen Jiabao. In 2008, a devastating earthquake struck Wenchuan, Sichuan Province, China. South Korean media outlets Long-Ong Ilbo and Yonhap News Agency reported that in the early stages of the Wenchuan earthquake, Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao attempted to deploy the military to rescue victims. But due to interference from Jiang Zemin, the military refused to take orders. Then Premier Wen Jiabao angrily stated, "The People's Liberation Army needs to remember who it serves, the Chinese people." This incident was later verified by a cable sent from the US Embassy in Beijing to Washington, D.C. on July 17, 2009, and released by WikiLeaks on August 30, 2011. Until the 18th National Congress in 2012, Hu Jintao suddenly announced his resignation from all party, government, and military positions, transferring all power to Xi Jinping. He was effectively forcing the already retired Jiang Zemin to relinquish power as well. Hu Jintao was filmed at the time, unable to hold back his tears. By then, Jiang Zemin had effectively controlled China for 23 years. During these 23 years, the outside world witnessed widespread corruption in China and the CCP's reach extending globally. Even during these 23 years, Jiang Zemin's reputation had become extremely poor. The most widely circulated rumors were about Jiang Zemin and his mistresses. When I was still in China during interviews in county-level cities, local officials would ridicule Jiang Zemin and his mistress Song Ju-ying, a singer at banquets. After Xi Jinping came to power in 2012, he spent almost his entire first 2 terms purging Jiang Zemin's faction. It could be said that Xi Jinping and Jiang Zemin's group were mortal enemies at that time. In 2018, Xi Jinping amended the constitution, formally removing the restriction that the chairman and vice chairman of the People's Republic of China could not serve more than 2 consecutive terms, laying the legal foundation for Xi Jinping's indefinite term. As mentioned earlier, since the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, except for leaders like the first party leader Mao Zedong, centennial celebrations for other leaders' birthdays have generally consisted only of symposiums. This time, Xi Jinping held a grand centennial celebration for Jiang Zemin. Why did Xi Jinping choose to do this? Our analysis is that in the early years of Xi Jinping's rule, he suppressed the Jiang Zemin family because their power posed a threat to him. But now the situation has changed. Xi Jinping's desire to rule China using Mao Zedong's methods, his expectation of a military attack on Taiwan to strengthen his power through war, has encountered opposition from reformists within the party. The core of this opposition within the party was former party leader Hu Jintao and former Premier Wen Jiabao. After Xi Jinping came to power at the 18th National Congress, Hu Jintao, Premier Wen Jiabao, and former Premier Zhu Rongji made numerous high-profile public appearances to support Xi. However, around the time of the 19th National Congress, the Xi administration shifted entirely to the left, leading to dissatisfaction among previously supportive, enlightened officials and public intellectuals. In 2012, at his last press conference as premier, Wen Jiabao said that without successful political reforms, economic reforms could not be carried out to the end. Existing achievements might be lost, newly emerging problems could not be fundamentally resolved, and the tragedy of the Cultural Revolution could be repeated. Reform can only move forward, stagnation and regression offer no way out.
随着经济的发展，又产生了分配不公、诚信缺失、贪污腐败等问题。我深知，解决这些问题，不仅要进行经济体制改革，而且要进行政治体制改革，特别是党和国家领导制度的改革。
After the 20th National Congress, Xi Jinping's own right-hand men were purged in succession. In particular, in January of this year, the highly respected but unfavorable to Xi, Zhang Yushai, and his military ally Liu Zhenli were both dismissed. However, they have not yet been removed from their military posts, nor have their qualifications as National People's Congress deputies been revoked, rumored to be due to a backlash within the party and the military. Now, forces across society threaten Xi Jinping, so he's trying to co-opt the remaining forces of Jiang Zemin. Xi's thinking is, as long as you don't oust me, you can quietly make a fortune. I'll let you off the hook and I can even bring you to my team. Therefore, his commemoration of Jiang is purely a power game and a calculation. To secure his re-election next year, Xi is targeting former political leaders and rivals. Now, his targets have shifted to reformists. He no longer attacks the Jiang Zemin family who cruelly persecuted the people, corrupt and traitorous, and their remaining influence. Instead, he's trying to win them over, hoping they will support his 4th term. Therefore, the power struggle within the CCP's top leadership has reached a fever pitch. Xi wants to return to his one-man dictatorship, using a closed-door policy to cope with the continued decline in the domestic economy and an increasingly wary international environment. What is the most absurd and alarming aspect here? First, in his speech, Xi said, "In the spring and summer of 1989, a serious political turmoil occurred in our country. Comrade Jiang Zemin resolutely upheld and implemented the correct decisions of the Party Central Committee, effectively safeguarding stability in Shanghai." Comrade Jiang Zemin made resolute decisions at key historical junctures and critical moments, responded calmly to risks and challenges, and resolutely overcame difficulties and obstacles, opening up broad space and creating a favorable environment for modernization. This implies that Jiang Zemin was meritorious in suppressing the June 4th incident. This means Xi explicitly stated his stance on the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989. Essentially, it signifies his willingness to inherit the CCP's political legacy, including the negative legacy of the June 4th crackdown. Secondly, Xi Jinping stated in his speech, "Faced with the major tests of the international turmoil and serious domestic political upheavals of the late 1980s and early 1990s, he unwaveringly adhered to economic development as the central task, resolutely upheld the fourth cardinal principles, and resolutely safeguarded the country's independence, dignity, security, and stability." Many young Chinese people may not understand what even this refers to. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, China experienced its most enlightened political environment. At that time, a Qigong craze emerged. As a country with over 5,000 years of uninterrupted civilization, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism had consistently dominated all aspects of Chinese society until the CCP seized power in 1949. Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism all taught the people that they could cultivate their minds and improve their moral standards to elevate their spiritual realm. Finding the laws of the universe and becoming a higher form of life has been an ongoing endeavor for many Chinese throughout history. Accompanying this mind are various forms of physical exercise used to improve health, prolong life, and offer far-reaching benefits. In the environment under the CCP's rule, these practices were changed to a new term, Qigong. During the Qigong craze, one particular practice spread rapidly with many people experiencing astonishing effects after practicing it. Even those with terminal illnesses became healthy. This practice also conveyed many principles, awakening the deep-seated hope for spiritual enlightenment within the Chinese people. This practice is Falun Gong. At that time, banners proclaiming Falun Gong's three principles, truthfulness, compassion, forbearance, were hung throughout China. Practitioners were everywhere in parks and playgrounds. Because there were so many practitioners, then-party leader Jiang Zemin felt that despite holding supreme power, more Chinese people believed in Falun Gong than party members. This was a contest between Falun Gong and the CCP for the masses. Therefore, in July 1999, driven by jealousy, Jiang Zemin and the CCP launched the persecution, implementing a policy of ruining their reputation, bankrupting them financially, and eliminating them physically, supplemented by the burning and destruction of Falun Gong books. They then fabricated the Tiananmen self-immolation hoax to brainwash the people and even ordered the harvesting of organs from living Falun Gong practitioners. The CCP's thriving organ transplant industry began at that time and continues to this day, with ordinary Chinese people becoming victims. Despite the CCP's ongoing persecution of Falun Gong, CCP leader Jintao, Wen Jiabao, and Xi Jinping have never publicly commented on Falun Gong. In fact, in April 1999, then Premier Zhu Rongzhi, who was working alongside Jiang Zemin, explicitly stated, "If practicing Falun Gong can improve health and each practitioner can save the country 1,000 yuan in medical expenses annually, how much money would that save the country if so many people practiced it? Let them practice." Shortly afterward, a spokesperson for the General Office of the CCP Central Committee and the State Council's Letters and Visits Bureau issued a statement regarding the April 25th incident, saying, "Governments at all levels have never prohibited various Qigong and fitness activities. The masses have the freedom to practice a certain Qigong and also the freedom not to practice a certain Qigong. Whether or not to practice Qigong is a personal matter for the masses, and the government will not comment." However, this did not stop Jiang Zemin from launching a massive persecution within 3 months. So how does Xi Jinping's current opponent, former Premier Wen Jiabao, view Falun Gong? According to Hong Kong media reports, between 2011 and 2012, at a high-level meeting, Wen Jiabao said, 6 or 7 years ago or even earlier, the terrible consequences of the persecution of Falun Gong were already evident in China. Our investigations reveal that Jiang Zemin used shocking amounts of state resources to suppress an unarmed civilian group, which was utterly absurd. Even now, the central government has not addressed or resolved this issue. The report also stated that Wen Jiabao once said at an internal meeting in Zhongnanhai, "Harvesting organs from living people without anesthesia and then profiting from it, is this something a human being would do? This has been happening for years, and even as we retire, it's still unresolved." Now, Xi Jinping, standing in opposition to Wen Jiabao, seems to intend to inherit Jiang Zemin's negative political legacy of persecuting Falun Gong. Jiang Zemin is actually the biggest traitor in contemporary China, a fact the CCP is well aware of. For example, the China-Russia border. On many official Chinese websites and forums, China-Russia border was once a blocked keyword. 98% of the disputed border between China and Russia was signed during Jiang Zemin's presidency. Jiang signed 6 treaties with Russian President Yeltsin and later one with Putin, selling out over 1 million square kilometers of valuable Chinese territory, equivalent to dozens of Taiwans. Furthermore, Jiang ceded the mouth of the Tumen River in Russia, effectively blocking northeast China's access to the Sea of Japan. Xi Jinping and the CCP's public commemoration of Jiang Zemin, linking themselves to him, aims to maintain a regime that has long lost popular support. That path is the worst possible one, a return to the extreme left-wing policies of the Mao Zedong era in China's political, economic, and social policies. This shift emphasizes the party's absolute leadership, strength and ideological control, and the retreat of private enterprises from the state-owned sector. In contemporary China, foreign capital is fleeing. Businesses are closing, employment is shrinking, and a large number of people are struggling to survive. It's foreseeable that the hard times of the Chinese people have arrived, and before the CCP exit the historical stage, the Chinese people will endure a period of considerable hardship. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.